And back with part 2 of our FSBC library author interviews with HaniTrash. And because, none of us can shut up for very long, split this into 2.
I suppose it's probably part of why I write, because I always got in trouble for talking in school. So, I started writing it all down.
Hey, that's a way to do it. Rightio. So, because you've done everything completely back to front, you're a published author, and then you got into fan fiction, and then you got into Stucky via HTP, so HaniTrash Party. I don't know how to. I genuinely don't know how to phrase this. It's like, what point do you think when you're writing HTP or anything like that, you go, no, that's too far, or have you not reached that point?
So there are a few fics that I've read with HTP that I'm like, I wouldn't go back and reread them, because I'm terrible about like being a completionist. Like, if I start a fic, I will finish it. Like, I spite read the entire 50 Shades series because I was like, no, I can't argue about this with people online if I don't know the books, if I haven't read them myself. And then I started reading them and I'm like, oh dear God, why am I reading this?
I understand that feeling very well. I'm pretty sure I was in the same boat.
So yeah, honestly, it was I'll read them and like I'll finish them because I started it, I'm gonna finish it. As far as the writing goes, I don't write any more than like I'm willing to, I guess. Like I don't outline. I'll have like a very general idea of the plot of the story, like what I want to happen, or I'll start with a very specific scene in my head. Like with Crash and Burn, my super long ABO, my first ABO story that I literally thought was just going to be a short porn about plot, and you see how well that worked.
Just a side note on that one. That is like one of the top. We haven't used it as a group read. It's been nominated as a group read for the book club. Sorry, not the library. Right. A few times, but I'm pretty sure all of us have read it independently at some point or another. So it's.
I'm pretty sure most of you have commented on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the scene. I don't know, chapter 13 or 14, I forget which. The one that Cocheria did the art for.
13.
Was it
13?
Yeah, I knew it was one of those two. Literally that scene with them on the street is what I had in my head when I started that entire story. And then I got 70,000 words out of it or something. I don't even know. Yeah, so when I start a story, I'll have like an idea. And then it just kind of grows from there. Like, I don't plot things out. I don't have detailed outlines. I envy the people who can make a detailed outline and stick to it and know what their word count is going to be from the start. I don't do that. I can't do that. It's just not me, not how my brain works. So when it comes to the dark fic and other stuff like that, as far as, how far is too far, for me, I don't write it for the shock factor. I write it as, this is an idea I have in my head, and that's what I want to get out onto the screen. I haven't written anything that goes like past any of my own like levels of what I'm okay with reading, I guess. I don't know if that really answers the question, but like that's kind of where it goes. Like when I'm writing, if I wouldn't read it, I'm not going to write it, basically.
There's a big thing as well, which I'm finding when I'm interacting with more people who read fan fiction now. So many people put HTP and Dead Dove in the same category. Now they can have a lot of overlaps, but there is a big difference between HaniTrash Party and Dead Dove. Like, yes, both of them can have the same elements, but there is a very
big there is a lot of overlap, because I mean, it's the Dead Dove warning is this is exactly what it says on the tin type of thing. Like this, the bag says Dead Dove, do not eat. You open the bag, it's a dead dove, and you say, well, what was I expecting? You know, exactly. It's from that scene, you know, from, was it Parks and Recs? I think it is, right? Yep. It's from that scene. It's like, you know, you were told what it is, you looked inside, what were you expecting? That's what the Dead Dove tag is. And usually that is meant for like darker fics type of things, but it can also be for psychological stuff too.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a physical darkness. It could be a psychological darkness. I mean, I would say, I've tagged some of my Hannibal fics Dead Dove, because it's what it says on the tin. It's not a happy story. Like, there are not good things happening in here. You know, and so it's one of those, you were told what this was, which is different from HaniTrash Party, because it's literally like Hydra trashing Bucky, or Hydra trashing Steve, or Hydra trashing whoever they have captured. It's, you know, HTP and Dead Dove are separate entities that have a lot of overlap.
Yeah. And it's surprising. And I mean, and I'll admit, I was one of those people who sort of looked at one of those tags and assumed the other was part of it. And it wasn't until I'd actually read a bit more, and I somehow managed to accidentally start a HTP fic. And I can't even remember which one it was now, but I say accidentally, I had about 700 tabs open like I normally do. And I started reading a fic, and it wasn't the one I thought it was. And a bit like you, once I start something, I kind of want to finish it. Right. So I read it all the way through and went, oh, that actually wasn't that bad. But that wasn't what I was expecting. So I went back and kind of looked at it and went, oh, they're actually two different things. Like this.
Yeah, they are.
But I think, like, with your like darker stuff, it has like a lot of redeeming qualities to me. I think like the writing, number one, is so stellar that it just grips you. And then on top of that, like, you do have like, in a lot of them, you have like some like hope, like a little bit of sunshine peeking through, even though it's
that's like,
it looks bleak, but
that's like the one I wrote for the Hydra holiday trash gift exchange, which is just so much fun. I love it. It's the end of the years and everyone is having all these happy celebrations. Let's write each other some trash. It's so much fun. I didn't do it last year because I had too many other commitments, and I was kind of sad because I missed it, because it's a lot of fun. But that there's one that I wrote, the happiness and slavery one that I wrote, and yeah, the ending of it, I don't want to spoil the ending for anyone interested in actually reading it. It's, you know, it starts out very bleakly, I guess one could say. You have Steve getting trashed, and you know, Bucky is there as the Winter Soldier and whatnot and everything. And Rumlow is so much fun to write, because he is just unapologetically a bad person. He just doesn't have any redeeming qualities.
Yeah, there was one thing I read, and I actually had to stop it because they wrote Brock as a nice guy. And I'm like, no, I can't do it.
I can't do it either. I know, I'm the same way. I'm like, no, Brock's not a good guy. He's just not. And so there's Hydra husbands, which is Rumlow and Rollins, and a lot of people write that as like a fluffy AU, and I'm like, I can't do it. I just don't see it.
I can't do it.
But so that fic that I wrote, that Happiness and Slavery, it starts out very dark. It gets a little bit darker. It ends dark, but there is like a tiny little glimmer of hope in there that you think there maybe could be a way out of this in the future for them. Yeah, I mean,
you left that one little shining thread just floating through it.
And that's what it's like, you know, a lot of the times it's, you know, trash, but with like, you know, a little crack in the window type of thing, like for like one little tiny whiff of fresh air.
So, and like, just when I first started reading on AO3, I looked at the tags and just skipped over them. And then I kind of went, no, hang on, there's actually information in this. So, and now I'm getting more and more surprised at what tags are actually genuine tags, like your consenticles.
Consenticles, I love consenticles. Consenticles is fun. So that's a nice umbrella tag, because there's consenticles and you have like dubious consenticles, which is basically, you know, dubious consent. And then enthusiastic consenticles, which is when someone's like, yes, please fill me with all your tentacles. And you know, it's a fun tag. I love it. It's a hilarious tag. I just love it. It's hilarious. Like,
I'm not gonna lie, when I read the tag,
consenting to monster sex. Yeah, it's consenting monster sex. It's the Harkness test, you know? I mean, come on. Is it tell me you guys know, you know the Harkness test, right?
Yeah. Oh man, I'm gonna die over here. Like
if it's, you know, fully aware and consent to what's going on, then go for it. Sleep with it. It's the Harkness test, you know? I mean,
yeah. It's look, and I know it exists. There is online stores where you can buy monster dildos, and
Bad Dragon is one of them. There's other
Shout
ones.
out.
Bad Dragon's the most common.
Yes, Bad Dragon. Woo.
Yeah,
And
they're the most common. There are other
Dragon
stores.
ones,
There's
and
one,
you
like,
can,
off of Etsy and
if
stuff
you're
too.
really into ABO and stuff, you can buy a knotting one. Like, it's insane. I've only learned about all this stuff in the last 12 months. This is just like, I had a vague awareness of it, but I never went looking for it.
Those things are literally pieces of art, though. Like, I feel like I'm just gonna buy one because they're like so beautiful and just like handcrafted and special and unique.
You know, it's the extra ridges, you know, rib for her pleasure type of thing, right? You know, extra ridges on it and the little nubs and stuff.
It's yeah. What is it that rule, whatever it is, rule 34 or whatever it is, if it exists,
it's on the internet.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
but like much. Okay, so
like my penis pillow fix, the penis pillows. If it exists, it's out there. That was so much fun to write. Oh my god, it started out as a joke. In the one server that I'm in, someone shared like those little plushy peens, and we're like, oh my god, those are so cute, and it just spiraled from there. It was the Cantabile is the user who started all that with me. She doesn't even write fic. She just enables everybody else to write fic for her.
She's using you.
She does. She makes us all write stories for her. It's hilarious, but I mean, obviously we do it willingly. So it started out as a joke for the penis pillow fic, and I want one if I could find a way. My husband told me I could get one if I was going to explain it to our kids, and I was
oh my
so
God.
I was like, yeah, no, it's okay.
I think that's the only like instance where a penis can be considered cute. It's adorable.
That. They're absolutely adorable. And then my husband actually sent me the picture for the donut pillow because he had seen that online, and he was like, and I was like, oh my god. And then of course that spawned another story idea in my head. So
do you know what I thought about when I read that? You guys are gonna, this is where my brain goes. I thought about just when I saw those tags, I thought about like those I don't even know if most people know.
For tailbones, when you break your tailbone, you get the little donuts to sit on.
No, actually, you know why a lot of people use them as well? For hemorrhoids.
Oh, okay.
Listen, I'll talk about anything. I work in a hospital. I work in a hospital, so basically everything is free game for me. Like the medical horror stuff is so interesting now. Like when I read some of that, like with that tag, like I understand it a lot more, and I know like if the person like that's writing it has like a medical background or not. Like I just know, like when I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, okay, they're either a nurse, a doctor.
Yeah, like you can tell who's been around kids, who writes kid fic and who doesn't. And that was part of why I was so anti-kid fic for a long time, because I'm like, these people have never been around kids. Like this is not how a 4-year-old talks or acts or whatever. And I'd be like, no, this is not right.
Right. Because you need a sense of realism. I think when like you're experiencing it in your own life, when you read it, you don't want that fantasy. You want to read about what you know.
Yeah. I mean, there's a whole thing about write what you know. And the problem with that is then you never learn anything. And then your stories are all the same. I went down a research hole. This is hilarious. So, I will get stuck on research. No, just one night, buddy. Sorry, my kid just came in the room. So I'm writing a story for the Cap Reverse Big Bang right now. And I've got it set in DC, and I had to figure out like, okay, how far is Steve's apartment in DuPont Circle from, the National Mall, and what subway can someone take to get there? And I just go on these like research dives, and it's like, and like for some of my published stuff, like I will research all this stuff because you want it to sound right, or like I'll find someone who I know is experienced with that to make sure it sounds right, so there's a lot of, you can tell who really puts the extra time and effort into fics, like you said, and into any story, even a published story. I've actually been published authors that I have read entire series on, like we're talking 12 plus books, Terry Goodkind, and his last few books I haven't even read them. There was one that I didn't even finish because I was like, I feel like I'm reading a first draft. Like it's not polished. Like it's not polished. I'm like, I felt like he didn't put any effort into it at all. Like he was just trying to meet a word count. And I was like, you can tell when someone is really putting that effort in and who's not. So like you said, when you get back to like, like the medical horror or cooking or anything, you can tell when someone knows what they're writing about.
Or soil science.
Or oh my God, yes.
Let's talk about
the
1918.
Let's talk about Farmer Daddy Steve.
That was insane. That was insane.
We're all like, how did you make us care about dirt?
I was on board. I checked in and I never checked out with that one.
Oh my God, I love
it. And then we managed to, I managed to almost give her a heart attack because my parents are contract harvesters here in Australia. So they harvest crops for a living. And she's like, oh my God, you're someone from this part of the world. Like, did I get any of this right? And I'm like,
oh yeah, it was hilarious. Because she was like, because she is like a scientist in life, and it's so funny. It was like,
so part of the conversation that she and I had was, well, I knew this stuff, but I didn't know this, and I don't know if I got it right. And I'm like, well, for starters, Australia doesn't usually have to worry about a crop living through snow. Apart from that, you're good.
Was anybody else invested in that? I was so invested.
It was so funny because
what's going to happen?
She was literally like researching, and on the research hole, she was like looking up. She had like, geological maps, and like and planning out like seasons and when he had to, and she did so much to make sure she got it right. And it was great. Like you can definitely tell when someone cares about what they're writing, you know. That's just,
and it's funny, I feel like that is the one that a lot of us weren't into, like the whole daddy thing. Like I feel like that was like our first like official, like as a group, foray into it, and some of us hadn't read that before and we're kind of like hesitant about whether or not we were going to like it. And suffice to say,
that kicked off a whole thing.
Yeah, it started a whole thing.
I mean, you know, there's, as with any, you know, kink or whatever you want to call it, there's good daddy fics and there's bad daddy fics, you know. And like it's with any kink, there's, you know, there's good dubcon and there's bad dubcon, you know.
Yeah.
There's it's you know, it's some of it, you know, is written really well, and then others you're like, I can't finish this. And you know, for me to nope out of a story, it says a lot.
Like it's interesting too that so many things that I wouldn't go near at all when I first, you know, got into the fandom. To start off with, anything to do with ABO, I was a nope, this isn't right, like this, whatever. And then I read something about, it was an ABO fic where it really played on what the gender stereotypes were and how they were different for ABO, but still stayed the same and stuff like that. And it sucked me in. And then I gave something else a go. And I guess it's a bit like this, like with the HaniTrash party and stuff. What I started with was like, oh, well, that's not what I thought it was. So what else is out there? And it just pulls you down an entirely different rabbit hole.
And it's HTTP that like I won't reread, but like I still think about every now and then. And then there's other ones that like I want to read every single day if I could. And I actually consider the 1918's Rhapsody in Pink. So there's I'm in a Hydra server, and I come and get them, buddy. I got them ready for you. Sorry, my kid. The Hydra server that I'm in collectively lost their minds over Rhapsody in Pink. I'm fairly convinced that the 1918 sold her soul for that story because it is like absolutely amazing. We kind of consider that like a Hydra light type thing because you know it's got so many HTTP like concepts and themes and whatnot in it. And so I love that one. But then getting back to the AVO thing, her Between the Tides.
Yes.
Which, you know, also the best AVO fics I've ever read.
Exactly.
Because it just plays with the differences in the stereotypes and everything like that. I mean, she's written some of my absolute favorite stories.
Yeah.
So
hearing you on that
one, Fisherman Thor.
Give
a shout out.
I know that was
no, it's
like
insane.
we worship the 1918.
I mean,
she's a legend for us.
Yeah, you know, she's read a lot of great stuff out there. I mean, I can't blame you. But then, you know, I know her from being in the one group chat with her, and we're like, no, you didn't. like that. She's pretty normal. It's like, but
I have a question about like the HaniTrash party, darker theme, a little bit of a psychological. I don't know necessarily. What do you think people are looking for or need? What are they getting out of those type of pieces?
Actually, I know a lot of people who like HTTP stuff are abuse survivors. And I exercise their own past through writing it or through reading it, through coping, and you know, seeing a way out type of thing. Like, you know, I just, there's a lot of, you know, the self-identification with the character. Some of it is playing out fantasy, like, you know, some people would, you know, not want to actually have a gangbang in real life, but you know, if they can play that out in that fantasy
and maintain
it,
control over it as well, I suppose would be an element.
Yeah. And or it's the loss of control. Being overpowered, you know, my
I know what you're gonna talk
Sarah,
about.
Yeah. What is this title? I just blank on the title of it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, If I'm Not Broken. Yeah, If I'm Not Broken. You know, a lot of it's just, you know, like regaining a sense of self and a sense of, you know, who you are. You know, so a lot of the darker themes, a lot of people, you know, are, you know, abusive, work through, you know, their own past or whatever with that. So I think that's what a lot of people are looking for, or it's just purely for, you know, spank bank material for the fantasies. You know, I think that's where people are going with it usually.
Yeah, that rape fantasy fic is just, that will always be in my mind. That's like seared. That's like
that's rent free. That lives rent free.
Your response, oh my God, your comments and reactions to that were hilarious. You're like
who am I? I mean, honestly, it plays on a lot of like my personal kinks as well. You know, not to give myself away too much. I mean, I will, but but it definitely hit the spot. Let's just say that in some ways.
Yeah. Well, and so, yeah. So like, and so you say like the personal kinks thing. I know there was a question on the list about, you know, when you write for someone, how do you decide what I'm doing your job for you. Sorry.
I know you are. It's brilliant. It's great. It's
a good segue into it though.
So, it really is.
Like, so when I write for, like, when you write for somebody, sometimes it's just a flat out gift. Like the Fist of Hydra was just a flat out gift to somebody for their birthday. And what better birthday gift to someone than to say, hey, I know what all your biggest kinks are, and I'm going to write you some porn to go for it. I mean, you know, some of it's
that's
just
so
that.
intimate too.
It's
like, I just love that
friend.
idea.
That's a good friend, you know?
Yeah, that's like the best friend.
It's like hey,
Jill, you know my birthday's coming up, right? June 13th. Chris Evans' birthday. Chris and I share a birthday. We're both Geminis. I drop that everywhere I can drop that. But yeah, my birthday's coming up. I know we've been doing art and we've been commissioning for some art, but you know, we could always get into this fanfic realm for gifts.
You need to, Sarah, you need to go back in your box. All right. If you don't think we've got something epic organized.
The only reason you guys remember it is because it's Chris's birthday. That's what I believe.
The only reason I remember it is because it's my half birthday.
True. I remember Sebastian's because it has to do with it's an anniversary I share with my husband for something. So that's how I remember Sebastian's birthday.
Wow. I'm like convinced like that Chris and I are like soulmates, but like because I love like astrology. Like I have several tattoos that are astrology related. Like I just really embrace like myself as a Gemini and really I know a lot of people think that's like hocus pocus and whatever, but I'm really into that. Like I read the stuff. I'm like, let's do a star chart.
Oh, I love it.
I don't know. It's a whole thing, but you know, that's just the fantasy of a 30-year-old.
Yeah. But you know, so when I write for someone, sometimes it's just like as a gift, you know, for like a birthday type thing, and it's starting with just an idea. So like the Fist of Hydra, you know, we wrote for Trek Chick, and she loves tentacles. She loves, you know, she's got a lot of like tentacle art in her house and stuff and everything. She loves tentacles, and so we're like, hey, listen, I know what we can do. And the entire story was just based on, it has to do with tentacles. And then Ix and I just wrote this story from there. And then other times it's if it's a bang fic, it'll be a prompt with like, if it's if it's a reverse bang, then you have the art first. And so some people will put a prompt with the art. Other people will just give you the art and say however you want to interpret it. And then, you know, for other bangs, you know, it'll just be like the idea, you know, so when I write for somebody else, it's, you know, either they ask for a specific thing or they just have like a general idea or something like that usually.
It's so easy
Yeah,
to fall down that rabbit hole as well with like, oh, I've got this idea. And then if you bounce it off someone else, they throw it back to you. And Co is the worst. Like we've got art done by Co, right? For birthday presents and stuff within the book club. And she starts throwing prompts at us. And it's like none of us are writers. But she still keeps throwing prompts at us.
Do you know what she does to me? She will send me a picture. She had done this to me before for Strictly Business that Becca Scene and I wrote for the 1918.
Mm-hmm.
We got Co to do art for it because she loves 1918 as well. And she sent me, now mind you, we had this story almost done. Okay. Like we were like 2 days out from posting type of thing, right? And I wake up in the mornings so I'm in the United States, Co is in Europe, and I wake up in the morning to just a picture, just an explicit picture from, you know, like a porn type thing, just a reference picture, nothing to go with it. And I send back to her, I'm assuming this means you want me to write this into the story because you want to art it. And she says, yes. So I literally the day before posting, I wrote a whole nother scene to fit this art that she wanted to do for the story. This is what she sends me pictures and makes me write the story for it. And I'm like, I've had to change some of the TikTok stuff. Like I had to edit scenes to go with the picture that she picked for it, which I don't mind. I don't mind it at all. It's hilarious. She's like, she's like a force all unto herself. I love her. She's adorable. I just love her to pieces.
For us, she did a hockey Steve for our hockey obsessed member. And then she did Canadian Lumberjack Bucky.
The one that got stolen.
I think that we need a fic with that art in it. With them in Canada, like I got a whole thing.
It's all planned out. I like
it's already, it writes itself at this point. Not that I'm going to give it a go or anything like that, but you know, I'll leave that to the professionals.
Good. Now we are nearly out of time on our second round. So very quickly, do you finish your fics before you post them? So do kudos and comments influence what you're writing as you go, or is it mostly done before you post?
If it's a bang, it's done before it's posted. Other stuff, it depends. Like TikTok was done because Co was doing art for it. You know, I tend to have it done or mostly done before I start posting now. I learned my lesson with posting as I go because the story just kind of evolves on its own, and then like I can't go back to edit to make things work the way I want them to later on in the story. I'm one of those authors that I honestly don't care about my stats. Like I don't look at kudos or hits or any bookmarks, any of that. Like I don't care. Every once in a while I'll go through just to look and see what they're at, but I couldn't tell you what I'm at right now for anything. Let's
just say it's high.
I love getting the emails in the morning from AO3 that says you've got kudos, and then seeing the list of people and fics that have gotten attention over the night and whatnot and over the day or whatever. Like I love getting my emails. I love getting you've got a new comment on this fic, you know, and I love getting those emails, and I do eventually respond to most comments. I love getting them. They don't drive the story. I have had comments kind of influence sequels, like influence like other events to come in other stories entirely. That'll give me an idea that I will then work into a whole other story. But I've learned to not post as I go because for one, then there's no schedule. And when you have a schedule, you get more engagement. If you say I am posting every Wednesday, or I am posting, you know, Tuesdays and Fridays, or whatever it is, you get more engagement because people know. A lot of people don't like to read works in progress. They wait until it's a finished fic, you know. But if you can say, you know, the story is finished, it is posting weekly, you know, then you might get that reader in that you wouldn't necessarily get because they're not going to get burned by an unfinished story. We're not going to talk about my Hannibal unfinished story from like, you know, 5 years ago.
Fair enough.
I mean, not 5 years. I haven't, you know.
Okay, listen. We need a sequel. We need a sequel to the Fist of Hydra. I have this whole island vibes, like the headcanon for this.
Well,
so I think that would be amazing. Just keep that in mind.
All right, now I'm not going to make you answer the question about what your favorite of your own work is.
I don't really have a favorite of my own, actually.
Nobody does. Nobody ever does. So what I want to know is, what is your absolute favorite piece of work by anyone? Now I'm talking fic, I'm talking art, I'm talking video edit, whatever related to the Stuffy fandom. What is your favorite piece of work?
I mean, we've talked about how much I love Rhapsody in Pink. That is definitely one of my favorites. See, I pick favorites for like different like themes. Like my favorite HTP would be Fire and Water for Your Love by Dragon Girl. It's a de-serumed Steve and Bucky in Hydra captivity, and it's wild. It's long, and it's my absolute favorite HTP fic. Was Fire and Water for Your Love. Phenomenal. She's an amazing writer. So I mean, it's tough for me to say my absolute overall favorite, because I mean, those are the two I think of first as far as like any. If you had me pick an all-time favorite, I wouldn't be able to, because it depends on the theme for me.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
I think I'll never look at cherries the same way again.
No, neither. Really,
you know, I always thought that cherries were like a sexual fruit. Like when I was eating it, like when I was young, I would always be like, this is just, I don't know. I could go into a whole thing about that, but I loved that the cherries were were a star.
Good, but we're about to run out of time, so
yes.
Nobody wants to hear that nastiness.
It's all good. This has seriously been amazing. Thank you so much for talking to us. And if you're up for coming back for tequila talks in the future, like honestly, you don't have to drink, but I mean, some of us probably will be.
Yeah, no, we could definitely do another one in the future. I mean, I gotta go do some stuff around the house now. I've been ignoring my kids for like over an hour, so.
And I mean, you know what? And even if it's as simple as you want us to, you know, promote your next fic or whatever else, like we won't even ask for a week in advance or anything. No, it's all good. Thank you so much for joining us.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
No worries. Thank you.